Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Stanley's Lucky Man, Season 2, Episode 1. So, as promised, I did mention that I was going to go into Season 2 after Season 1 was to wrap, and this is proof of that. That eventually I'm going to continue on with this show. I don't know if I'm going to be doing it every other day. It seems like there is some other kind of interesting aspects of stuff to put out, but without a doubt I will also continue to do this series. So going into Stanley's Lucky Man Season 2 Episode 1, we in this episode are to have double the bracelets, double the fun. Eventually you will find out who a second bracelet wearer will be in this episode and see where that kind of takes us. Like, this episode kind of gives this feel of, like, the Spider-Man 2 Tobey Maguire movie, where it seems that, bizarrely, Harry has to get his groove back, bizarrely, in this episode. Like, it seems that we have somebody breaking it down to him that, like, all of this luck bracelet business is all so much, like, in his brain that he's just having a hard time processing it all and trying to, like, assess what is the best time or place to use this bracelet. And plus also Harry doesn't really concretely know every single thing about this bracelet, and he's hoping that this second bracelet bearer is going to have much more knowledge than he will. So, because with that said, there is some kind of closure moments from Season 1, but it's brand new story and kind of some interesting things to be plopped out with here. So within this episode, what is to go on? So it seems that in this episode there is to be a poisoner on the loose. It seems that there is a man out there that is to go out and poison certain people for certain reasons. This guy has an agenda. Eventually, we will find out what that agenda is via spoilers, and then eventually we will see via this episode whether Harry catches this guy or not, or eventually just becomes the big bad for the rest of the season. With that said, I was okay with them, like, putting this kind of episode out there, just because it was different or wildly different than anything that they've done before. So I guess I can applaud them with that, but there is a lot of, like, stuff for me that is kind of going on to, I think, set up what is to be going on during the season in this first episode. So there's, like, a jumbled, mangled mess of a bunch of stuff that doesn't seem to actually go anywhere, because eventually it will go somewhere in another episode. So, with that said, I think it's time for us to just go into just really me saying that, because I have still 2 minutes on the clock. So Harry is to have this conundrum of trying to not use the bracelet in this first episode, because he assumes that something is going to happen to his family or his friends or something in the end of that. It seems, honestly, that I'm thinking that, like, the actress who is to play Suri might actually be, like, pregnant in real life. I have this, like, distinctive feeling that the actress playing Suri is, like, is actually, like, pregnant. Like, you can tell there's something different about her, and you can tell that, like, there's several times where she has, like, her blazer that is kind of holding to where you can't exactly see her like, stomach. So I'm thinking, is she or isn't she? Like, it doesn't matter, but I'm just kind of like, nah, like, good for her. But anyways, but going into this episode, we have Orwell coming back, and we have him being more of a douche than ever. Winter is back. Winter is coming. Winter is coming back into the fray, but it seems that Harry has been acting DSI for quite a while, but it doesn't seem like he really wants to actually do that job, because when he tries to do it, it seems like to him that everything is just straightforward, that he doesn't have to tell anybody what their actual job is because he doesn't really want to. He just want to work on his own, just do his own thing. And so it didn't quite make sense to him to be acting DSI. But anyways, so with that said, I think I did get over my 5 minute mark of kind of talking about certain things. So eventually we'll get to certain things. Let's go in and let's go into that double five, because it's that coveted time yet again to go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about the time you get to spoil this episode. A little bit different, a little bit weird action going there. So spoilers. So in the very beginning of this episode, we have really Harry and Suri in Harry's car racing against time, because it seems that there is a guy named Mr. Thompson who is to die shortly from poisoning. And so Harry is driving like a madman to make his way to this person and try to talk to him before he is to croak, sadly enough. So both Harry and Suri are to make it to Mr. Thompson and ask him where he has been for the last 24 hours, because they're naturally assuming that Mr. Thompson had been poisoned by someone. And so Mr. Thompson doesn't quite get anything really legitimately out, to where Thompson is just bleeding a little bit of that blood, if you know what I mean. And then eventually he is to keel over, and Harry and Suri are like, ah, crap. So they go back into the office, notice that Orwell is there, and that Orwell is going to be giving them crap through a lot of this episode. And so eventually they are to find in Mr. Thompson's bloodstream that there was a poison to be put into his bate that is to poison and kill somebody with 24 hours after they are to either consume whatever it is, or have whatever it is that was a poisoned object or item or whichever. So that leads Harry and Suri to start to go down this specific part of town where they think that maybe this poisoner could be around in this location. Because it seems that he had worked at some curry joint before with a guy named Sanjeev, and it seems that eventually that guy was poisoned as well. So, and this poisoner might have gotten fired from this curry spot, I guess. So while Harry and Suri were to make their way through this town, Harry is to notice a very shifty character, which is to lead him to chase after a guy named Rui Irota. Rui Irota. I believe that's how it's pronounced. More than likely I butchered the name, but that is what it is. Because Harry is to go inside its casino, and immediately Harry is like, oh my god. Because Harry has avoided any kind of gambling for a very long time, so Harry does not want to be tempted. Like, even Suri was mentioning when Harry was to go off on his own, Suri's like, oh, so are you gambling again? And Harry's like, no, I haven't touched this stuff in I don't know how long, and I have no temptation. So Harry is chasing after Irota to eventually go into this casino where he is to meet a worker there named Finley. And Harry is to ask, hey, have you seen an Asian man? He starts describing him, and so Finley's like, oh, that's one of the guys that I work with. His name is Rui Irota. And so, Finley kind of gives us a little backstory on this guy, and so Harry's like, oh, okay. So, Finley is to go and give Harry a chip, and Harry has no interest in like playing any of these things. So Harry just goes and tosses his chip onto one thing of one table, and coincidentally, the one spot that Harry was to fling this chip on was on some marker, and he won money. So forcibly, the people in the casino were giving Harry money, and he's like, "Ah, crap." So Harry eventually is to go on and see this one woman who seems to have a pretty good run of luck. And like she's boasting and like just like, yeah, like I feel so lucky today. Yeah. And so Harry goes down there to just kind of see like what is up with this woman, because like of her boasting about her luck just kind of seems to just kind of baffle and confuse Harry. So Harry goes down to where this girl is to uh, be at this one casino-ish place of a roulette table or whichever. Anyways, so Harry goes and bids opposite of this girl, and bizarrely, this girl is to win and Harry is to lose. And Harry's like, wait a minute, like, how is it that you won and I lost? Like, I never lose. And this girl, who is to be a mysterious girl, I guess named Isabelle, is to mention to Harry, it's like, well, if anything, like, I guess you're just not losing your using your luck properly, kind of thing. Like bizarrely, like this Isabelle girl is to consistently like say these like luck puns or something like that. These like luck things where she's like, "Oh yeah, I wish you all the luck in the world." Like and all of this stuff like is bizarrely she has to come up with these like luck terms that she has to like horseshoe in every 5 minutes. So see what I did there? Horseshoe luck. Yeah, it is what it is. So Harry is to pull the arm of this woman and to put like arm to arm with this woman to showcase that they both have matching bracelets. And Isabelle is like, well, yeah, but I think my luck is just a little bit better than yours. Because Isabelle knows how to fully use her luck, where Harry is just like in the developmental stage of this whole thing. And so that's why Isabelle just has a stronger ability better than Harry does. Uh, so I guess Isabelle has just landed into London, and so it seems that Isabelle is wanting to eventually befriend Harry, and this isn't, I guess, going to be the villain of this show, but it seems like Harry is making her out to be. Because, if anything, Harry is just scared of everything. So, Isabelle is to mention, it's like, well, hey, like, I hope, like, considering like I've been in London for a very brief time, hopefully you and me can be friends. And so Isabelle is to leave, and Harry can no longer find his man. So Harry is to walk out of this casino without his man. But Harry was to see this shifty character, and maybe this shifty character will eventually show himself in some part of this episode. So, uh, both Surrey and Harry are to eventually make it out of this casino, and at some point, Harry is to have this kind of back and forth thing that he doesn't want to use the bracelet, but eventually, like, it gets to the point where it seems that Harry is getting absurdly lucky, and so Harry not trying to use the bracelet, eventually the bracelet is to like use him. Maybe. Because Eve is to eventually talk to Harry, and Eve is just kind of just upset because she can't find Golding. And Eve is telling Harry, well, maybe you need to use the bracelet and let the bracelet guide you to where Golding is. And so there's like that little part there. But eventually both Harry and Surrey are to eventually go and try to find this man, and eventually that is to lead to Harry going and having these pipes fall upon him. And then all of a sudden, one of these pipes are to smack into this window. This window that is to have some underground-like lab where both Harry and Surrey are to go into. And so Harry is to see a lab of poisonous stuff. And Harry's like, man, this is like a massive find. And Surrey's like, yeah, I think we found like the laboratory of this guy. Maybe we'll find fingerprints. Maybe that'll lead us to this guy. And so while we have this poisoner who is to make his way back to this spot, eventually Harry and Surrey are to run after him. And this guy is to go and run off and close this door behind him, which is to have a combination that Harry and Surrey need to open, to like a number combination for them to be able to open this door and get to this guy. So this poisoner is to go and just kind of tease both Harry and Surrey that, ha ha ha, like, I'm right here and you can't get to me. And Harry's like, dude, we're going to figure out who you are. Like, we know your face. And it'll just be a matter of time before we figure out who you are. Like, you're going to lose. And this poisoner is like, well, like, I'm going to have as much fun as I can possibly have. Like, for every bit of these moments. It's like, before, like, I would try to hide in the shadows and whatever. But now I'm going to have some real fun. So let's put a pin in that. So, like, Harry does not catch this man. Harry doesn't use the combination. He refuses to use the bracelet, which leads to him not catching his man. So Harry is to also talk to Anna and Daisy. Both of them are to have a moment on, like, some, like, boat together. And Harry is to kiss Anna, and it seems like both Anna and Harry are having like a second go at their relationship. And so Harry is just kind of thinking that maybe he's going to get a little something from Anna, but Anna is like, not right now. And so Harry's like, well, okay, I guess I'll go and I'll take like a really cold shower. And so Daisy's like, that is the most like disgusting thing that I've ever heard from you, Dad. And so they're like, ha 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 ha, they all laugh it off. And then all of a sudden, like, Harry just chucks Daisy from off the boat, and then they laugh even more. Ha 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 ha. No, that's not what happens. But wouldn't it be funny? Like, ha ha, Daisy, you think that's funny? Oh, here you go. I have the luck of the bracelet. You will fall. But anyways, so Harry is to come back, and they are to find, like, after that dialogue with Anna and Daisy. So Harry and Surrey are to come back to their case, and I'm not doing it in the exact order of this episode. I'm doing it in a very roundabout way. And so eventually, like, I hope to get everything, but not everything will happen probably in this review. Because I know Anna and eventually Harry have another bit of dialogue where Anna is to mention how, like, she's, like, she thought that she saw Golding somewhere, and that Daisy is having nightmares, and Harry doesn't know anything about this, and eventually, Harry is going to know about this when Anna is to talk to him about it. But that happens somewhere down the line of this episode, but I mentioned it, so there we go. So Harry is to go back into the office, and Orwell is there to give Harry crap about, like, hey, I heard that you were just this close to getting your man. Like, man, that's just, like, really all that bad. I guess with a guy that has all the luck in the world, I guess eventually your luck does run out at some point. So Surrey is forcing Harry to go into the office and tell people what to do. because he's technically acting DSI because Winter is in the hospital recovering from his bullet injury. So Harry is to go in there and he is to basically just tell everybody straightforward, like, well, like, the obvious thing is for us all to figure out how every single one of uh, these victims are connected to our killer, and that seems to be the most straightforward thing. And so Orwell is like, wow, that's like that's the only thing that we actually need to do. Woo, wow, Harry, you're really taking forth and kind of coming up with all these answers for us. So uh, so Harry is to figure out that this poisoner is Ajit al-Hatro, I believe is how it's pronounced. So Harry is to find out that seemingly every one of these uh, people are connected to Ajit in some way. And so it seems that eventually Winter is to come back into fray and be briefed by Orwell of what's going on. And so Harry's just like, well, yeah, like I've been busy with my own case. And really, I just didn't want this. I didn't want the DSI job. I didn't want this. Like, I didn't want to do this. But Harry is to bring to Winter the connection of all these people that Mr. Thomas was a banker that was supposed to give Ajit this loan, and he didn't. So that's the reason why that guy died. Sanjif was a previous boss of Ajit, and this Sanjif had fired Ajit. Also, the girl who had been poisoned in this episode, and more than likely a lot of people thought I wasn't going to come up with that. Supposedly, both Harry and Surrey were mentioning that I guess that this girl was some past lover of the poisoner, and so really, I guess he killed her out of jealousy. So, and I think there might have been another person here or there that is to be like another person, but maybe I missed that somewhere. I think there might have been 4 victims, but I think I only said 3. But anyways, so eventually we go into here, and so Winters is like, oh, okay, like this seems great. And so really Harry is consistently wanting like 5 minutes of fresh air to just get his head straight. And Harry is to eventually bump back into Isabelle, and she is to mention to him uh, that she wants to meet with him at some spot in London, some restaurant, so they can kind of talk about things more. And Harry is kind of asking Isabelle, like, you know what, are you like part of this, or like, are you like the reason why I'm being able to find all of these things and all these leads, and like it seems like I am getting like steered to your direction. And Isabel's like, why would I orchestrate all this? Why would I plan this whole thing? If anything, to get closer to you, Harry. It's like, and bizarrely, like, Isabelle seems to instantly have this crush on Harry for some bizarre reason. And it seems like Isabelle keeps, like, thinking about Harry every minute of the day. It seems like she's, like, wow, going after Harry a little bit. But anyways, so once Harry is off of that, Harry is to also spend some time with Winter, and Winter is to kind of mention to Harry that he hated the fact that any moment with him and Harry is to lead with Winter getting some bullets into his bate. And so Harry's like, dude, you even remember that? like how can you even remember that? How many times have you probably gotten a bullet somewhere inside your body? Not because of me. But anyways. So, but like Winter is really being very apologetic for everything that happened in the past, and how like Winter was going out of his way to like not go with any of Harry's leads and sabotaging everything that Harry was doing. And Winter wanted to finally just like apologize and forgive Harry for the bullets that he had received before, and for the fact that Winter kind of sabotaged everything that Harry was doing because of that one moment. So Harry just is like, yeah, I forgive you easily. Like, you're my boss freaking anyway, so I have to continue to work with you. What am I gonna do? Just like hold a grudge for years? But anyways, uh, so Harry is to eventually go on and figure out that it seems that quite possibly the next target for Adjit may actually be his own mother. So, Harry and Surrey are to go off to find Adjit's mother, and because they assume that his mother might be the next target. So, because they start talking to Adjit's mother, kind of mentioning that eventually Adjit's father had died, and so it seems after Ajit's father had died, there had been plenty of people to blame for Ajit's father's death and what was to happen like shortly thereafter. Like, this is the thing that drove Ajit to become this poisoner, and so anything that was to happen right after his father's death, that's what led him to kill every other person that was to be a part of Ajit's life in one way or another. So eventually they naturally assumed that it might be the mother to be the cause of this, and so uh and so Harry is to have like a consistent watch over Ajit's mother, and to have these like police officers just kind of like doing a stakeout waiting for Ajit to show up, because they're putting Ajit's mother out there as bait to see if Ajit will take the bait. So Ajit does not come for his mother, but what he does do is he uh, puts on a couple pairs of gloves and starts handing out pamphlets to a bunch of these police officers. A bunch of these police officers are to get poisoned and drop like a rock, and Harry is to find out because while he's talking to Ajit's mother, Harry is to find out that it seems that Ajit's father was killed because police officers had to open fire upon him, and so Ajit was the person to last see his father alive and then dead, and Ajit had held his father in his arms as he was to die. So Harry is realizing that, oh my god, like police officers are the next target. So Harry goes out to check all the police officers and realizes that Orwell and some other police officers had dropped. And so Harry is to quickly take all these police officers to the hospital, and it seems that all of them had been poisoned, but I think it was kind of a weaker poison that they could come up with a solution for. So Harry is to talk about Orwell, or talk to Orwell while he's in the hospital. And Orwell is to mention, it's like, man, like, if anything, Harry, it seems like you're having all the luck in the world, and everyone else is in the crossfire. Like, everyone else is going to get hurt because of you. And but you're always going to be fine. You're always going to make it through. And it's like Harry's like, well, I'm sorry. Like, sucks to be you. So, uh, so eventually this is to lead to Harry and Surrey trying to figure out who the mysterious Isabelle is and like try to find out more about her because it seems that Harry continues to bump into her. And so Harry is to bump into Isabelle yet again, and Isabelle is to give Harry the address of where these bizarrish birds were to be circling around in some almost like tornado-like motion. And Isabelle was to say that this spot seemed like a signal or symbolized some kind of doom. And Isabelle was to give the address to Harry of that spot, and Isabelle was to mention to Harry that he needs to use the power of the bracelet much more often to solve all of these cases because eventually he would probably have a lot more free time. So Harry is to eventually go with Surrey and decide to see what this address is so he could track down this poisoner. Because it seems that Winter and Orwell and everyone is getting on Harry's case for not finding this guy right away. And so really everyone's getting very uptight that Harry just hasn't found this guy like a snap of the fingers. It's not so easy. So Harry is to go to this location and that Isabelle had given him. And so Harry is to or go inside here to see that there is this giant laboratory of all this stuff, this other laboratory that Adjit had off to the side. So Harry is to go and call Surrey and say, hey, yeah, I have this laboratory here that I found, and there's all these kind of chemicals that are all here. And so Surrey is to mention that chemical mixed all together is to make a very dangerous weapon. So Harry is to eventually go on to tear down some newspaper and look through a window to see where this laboratory is by. And so Harry has made the configuration that Adjit was supposed to go into some university, some school, but it seems like he was not to be accepted from there. So Harry is to run to this London University of Science because it's right close by, to think that Harry is to find Adjit here, and Adjit is to have some kind of poisonous bomb device that is to take out this whole entire university. So Harry is to make his way onto this roof. He's calling Surrey, and Surrey is to eventually follow him into this place. So Harry is to make his way to the roof and find Adjit there with bomb in hand. So Harry is to have this dialogue with Adjit to stop him, prevent him from pulling this whole thing off. And Harry is repetitiously looking at his bracelet, just going dude, I just need to use this bracelet just this once. I just need to be able to have this power so I can use it for good, so this bomb does not, or this weapon does not go off. This bomb/weapon/thing. So Adjit is playing around with this bomb in his hands, pretending that he might drop it because he's a douche. So Harry is trying to convince Adjit to not, of course, use the bomb, but Adjit is just so riddled with grief by his father dying, and like even to the point where his mother had mentioned that that Ajit should not hold his father in very much high regard, but Ajit did anyways. So, but Harry is trying to talk Ajit down, but it's going nowhere. To eventually having Ajit to toss this bomb, Harry is to dive after it and crash into this window, make his way through this stage that is putting together some production simultaneously, I guess at the same time. Harry is to slide down this little blip of a sheet to eventually have the bomb or the poisonous weaponish bomb thing start to slide off the stage. Harry is to go and dive after it, catch the device, and say, "I'm back." So Ajit is to run off to try to escape from this university, and Suri is to catch Ajit and to arrest him and make the collars. So the day has been saved, and Harry is back. Harry's back. He's getting his groove back. So I guess he had that like Spider-Man no more like scenario, but eventually he is to decide that he should use his power and figure out all that it can really do. Because Harry was talking to Eve before, and Harry was like, "No more bets, no more nothing. Like, I don't want to use this bracelet much anymore because I know that it might affect any number of people." Harry is to run off home after Ajit is caught to see if Anna or Daisy have been killed or any number of things. And Anna is to open the door all bloody, and Harry's like, "What the heck happened?" And Anna is to mention that supposedly she had been like doing something with some dinner, and all of a sudden a fox had come into the house, and so Anna had to defend herself. But it seems Anna is completely fine, like just kind of teasing people or just kind of like pushing people to think that something had happened to Anna. Just do a little tease there. So Harry is to eventually get his man, and so after that big old win of his, Harry is to make his way to Isabelle, and so Harry is to ask Isabelle, like, "Okay, like, I want to know everything. Like, I want to know everything about these bracelets. I want to know what they can do. Tell me now. Tell me everything." And so while Isabelle and Harry are to walk off hand in hand, which I'm assuming is going to have some conflict with Harry and Anna at some point in the show, like eventually we're going to have like Isabelle eventually seemingly coming off as Harry's girlfriend, and eventually that's going to conflict with Harry and Anna at some point in this episode. Because it seems like Anna and Harry were working things out, but what does that exactly entail? Not exactly sure, because Hannah is saying that they're like trying to start again, but like that doesn't really mean a whole heck of a lot of things. Also, I think Anna was to be doing some court thing, but I don't know exactly what all that meant. And plus, that kind of flew over my head with any of the things of what Anna was doing to cause Harry to want to go and have a dialogue with her. But anyways, so so at the tail end of this, Harry is to meet up with Isabelle, asking everything about the bracelet. So they are to walk off together, and all of a sudden, the guy that Harry had tried to get, and he went into the casino. We see him in the background of this episode, and he just starts to walk away, and we're just like, "Oh, okay." So like Isabelle is trying as much as humanly possible to connect Harry to her in any way possible, and it seems like Isabelle is working on something, and she might be the big bad for this season, or she might just be a person that is going to think that she can strong arm Harry into a relationship, and it'll be fun to see where this spirals off to. So, with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.